Hello and welcome to another video where today we're going to be discussing some alternative exercises to the plank, and one of the first ones is the horse stance here, which is, most people underestimate this exercise, think it's a really easy one, and it sort of is if your body weight, but if you add resistance to this, as we're showing in this video, this is doing several things. Firstly, like when Nathan's pushing out, at this point here he's very unstable, alright, so the only thing holding him maintaining his stability is the shoulder on this side and the hip on the other side, and both of them have to maintain his pelvis in neutral. If they don't do that, then he's gonna really lose a lot of control. His shoulder's got to work really hard to maintain the stability, and the anterior core demand is immense. So right through this region, which is where everyone's trying to target with the plank, is incredible. But the beauty of this exercise is that it really goes from being relaxed at that point to then having to be stiff at that point. So the breathing changes, as opposed to a plank where there's no demand, there's no need to change the way you breathe because you don't actually move. Obviously you're also going to be building strength into the glutes on the pushing part, and good strength around the shoulder girdle here for shoulder stability. So we use this a lot of times for hip and shoulder and low back problems. All right, so a great exercise that supersedes the plank by an absolute mile. So that would be one of my first choices if I'm looking for an alternative to the plank, if I recognise maybe there is a weakness in that anterior core. The next one here, which we're going to show you, is a forward ball roll, which again is another exercise that's greatly underestimated. And I prefer the kneeling one than standing versions, just mainly because I get a greater range of motion. I really encourage a strong amount of hip mobility and thoracic mobility, and those two areas are a common reason why people are getting problems around the low back and sacrificing the strength in the core, not because it was weak, but because these weren't mobile enough. So the hip region not moving and the thoracic region not getting into extension. So this exercise is an awesome one for regaining that flexibility, but in a not with a stretch, with an exercise that demands that you also maintain stability. So a harder version of this would be doing it with one arm, where now there's a greater demand for shoulder stability, and it's also very much asymmetrical. So the body really working a lot harder, and you can alternate sides to identify a weak side. So that's just one way that you could make that harder, and trust me, Nathan's making that look easy. Another way is to sort of move the ball around, so where you can actually take the ball away from the center, and using like a cue of trying to write the alphabet. So you can see Nathan writing letters here, and when he moves that around, he's trying to maintain sort of like a stiffening approach of a plank, but with a bit of a different movement. And we would say just 2 or 3 letters and then come out of it again. But generally that first one with the 2 arms is usually good enough. All right, then from the next one we can go back to sort of a similar plank movement, but again it has a moving concept to it. So this is one that Stuart McGill uses a lot to teach rotary stability. So it's where you're sort of moving from a front plank to a side plank. The challenge is not how well you can hold the plank, it's actually how you get there. So it's this point here where he lifts his arm, where we want to see if he can maintain his hips. So we don't want to see any movement out to the side here when he lifts that arm up. All right, so I'll play it again. You can watch it carefully and see if he does it. But so the point here, that's good to be able to hold it, but it's really how you get there that's more the problem. So when he lifts this arm now, he should not move on that side. All right, so and that's what you're trying to aim for, is how you get your arm up. So great exercise that has a moving concept to it. The breathing will change to create pressure, and then it will relax in the strongest point. So where he's here, he'll be quite strong. Don't really want to hold it for more than a handful of seconds. All right, so that's a great exercise. Then we can go back to the ball, and we can use a different version. And now we're sort of moving into the push-ups thing, so starting to look even more like a plank now. So we've gone from elbows to hands, and now the upper body is remaining very still and in control while he moves his legs. And this is the Jackknife here, awesome exercise, great for anyone with hip trouble, this one. Again, you're trying to maintain perfect lumbar neutral curve, so if you had a stick on his back we would just fit our hand in that gap there. And then you're getting to observe when he brings his legs in, does he maintain that curvature, or does he sacrifice his back straight away? All right, so you can see Nathan makes this look quite easy. Also a great exercise for shoulders, so you can really see if there's weakness through, you'll see winging if they've got serratus anterior weakness, or just strengthen the upper body weakness. But this is a much better version than doing planks because it has that timing of breathing and moving, of actually how you use your legs. So it relates more to squatting, deadlifting, running, walking, and so forth. Last one, quite simple, just the push-up. So the push-up is in that anterior loaded position for the core, but again the breathing and the timing and the positioning are all being used how they're meant to. So this is a much better alternative. You can still build exactly the same strength in that core that you would have if you were doing planks, but in a much more functional method. Taking it up a notch, and this is a shoulder stability drill, bringing your hands in a little bit closer to the midline, and then just seeing if you can remove one hand and maintain that position of the core, a bit like what we saw with the side plank one before. And again, we just observe if there's any lateral shifting through the pelvis, that would indicate there's a weakness. And this exercise is a simple way, but again, the breathing will change as he moves. All right, so. And that's the key. That's why I prefer these ones to just holding yourself still for minutes at a time. It really doesn't change much at all. All right, so great exercise. I hope you've enjoyed that video, and like I said, really out of all of those, this one here is probably my key one. I'd probably prefer this one the most. It just has a lot of benefits to it that people greatly underestimate. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed that video, and we'll see you on our next one.